Okay, at this time we'll call the meeting to order and we'll begin with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Coleman here. Ford here. Patterson here. Fraser here. Ivy here. Rush here. Honey here. Okay. Approve agenda. Shall make a motion to approve the agenda. Support. All in favor? Aye. Nays? Motion carried. Public comment.
Supervisor, Russell from the law firm of Carson, is it? Fisher. He's here to speak on the agenda item as it relates to approval of plan commission minutes. I told him that he didn't have to sign that back there. He just recommended he give him his opportunity to speak as to his position regarding those minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. As Attorney Young said, my name is Jeff Schlussel. I'm an attorney for Shostak Fisher Rawsonville LLC, the owner of the 90 acres consisting of 4 of those 5 parcels that are being considered for rezoning tonight, I believe. To make it easy, the only property of theirs that is not considered under consideration is the one ending in parcel number 004000. That is not their property. They own the other 4 properties. My client requests that the board rejects the purported recommendation of the Planning Commission and either maintain the property's current MHP designation or rezone it to the commensurate designation of RMH, which is under the current zoning ordinance. And in court, I spoke to the attorney just a few minutes ago, and I believe you have in your packet the letter our office sent to the Planning Commission dated September 4th, so I'd like to resubmit that in for the record tonight. But in addition, I would like to raise a few additional points in light of the September 11th Planning Commission meeting. First, it's not clear whether the Planning Commission has made a definitive recommendation to the board. The township has failed to make available to the minutes that it approved at its most recent November 13th meeting. They're not posted on the township's website, and despite multiple calls from my office to the township, including one this morning, the clerk's office indicated that they wouldn't release the minutes until they've been approved at tonight's meeting. This is an unprecedented and clear violation of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. As a result, there's no way for my client to know whether the Planning Commission properly complied with the zoning ordinance and made its recommendations. Additionally, this failure, in effect, is still unclear what zoning designation the township is proposing, leaves my client in a state of limbo, denying it of its property rights and exercising its inherent right of ownership. The actions of the township seem like nothing short of disguised taking of the property. The Planning Commission noted at this September 11th meeting that the township already has a number of manufactured housing communities, and another community would further jeopardize the township's goal of retaining its rural nature. This is not true. Based on data provided by the master plan, 64% of the township is rural residential, while only 1.3% of the township is manufactured housing. It's not clear if my client's property is included in this 1.3%, but regardless, based on the acreage, we only add about 1/3% to this equation. So their property of the 90 acres is about 0.37% of the township's acreage. Despite members of the Planning Commission alleging that the current manufactured housing communities cause a strain on public service, and this is mentioned a number of times at the meeting, there were no facts or data provided to support this claim as the basis to unilaterally rezone the property. Furthermore, it's not clear that the Planning Commission's recommendation meets the criteria for rezoning that's set forth in Section 3.10C of the zoning ordinance. And without the minutes available, there's no way to definitively determine this. Nonetheless, and more importantly, while we realize that the master plan proposes rezoning this property, Section 3.10C requires a reconsideration if conditions have changed since its adoption, and conditions are dramatically different and continue to evolve to support retaining the current zoning designation. First, there is no demand for large lot single-family homes. More specifically, Michigan has an aging population that prefers smaller homes in a communal setting with fewer maintenance and landscaping responsibilities. Additional factors such as interest rates, inflation, and economic uncertainty only adds to the declining demand for this type of residential product. People want homes that are affordable and not out of reach. According to the National Association of Realtors, the average age for first-time home buyers has risen from 29 to 38 over the last decade. More specifically, the average sale home prices in the township, based on my research, is around $310,000. A new single-family home on a large lot of 1 or 2 acres would cost exponentially more, taking into account new construction and the size of the lot. If the standard rule of thumb is the home should not cost more than 3 times one's annual salary, and given the median income within the township, this does not meet the standard. It makes it increasingly difficult to justify and explain why the township is unilaterally rezoning this property. The current zoning is clearly the highest and best use. There is no market for single-family homes, and based on comments from the planning commissioners at the September 11th meeting, there are already a number of new single-family developments being approved or constructed, which only creates a surplus of product without the demand. This sounds like a recipe for disaster and a means to make my client's property all but undevelopable. Accordingly, the criteria upon which the township is required to determine an unsolicited rezoning has not been satisfied. Finally, owner has a distinct and unique investment-backed expectation with respect to the properties. It acquired the properties with the understanding and expectation that they could be developed for manufactured housing. It is currently in active negotiations over the property regarding this development, and rezoning will frustrate long-standing legitimate plans to use the property for manufactured housing. The property owner should retain a reasonable expectation that its property can be used for the uses under the zoning designation in which it acquired it. The township's attempt to downzone the property, unsolicited or requested by my client, significantly diminishes its value and ostensibly renders it undevelopable for the uses in which it was originally designated. Based on these reasons, my client requests that the board rejects the Planning Commission's recommendation. There's no public benefit to the rezoning of the property. The financial loss will be significant to my client, and as further detailed in the letter, the township's goals and policies of the master plan are preserved even with the retaining of the existing zoning designation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I should, for the record, representative for my client, Commissioner Sumpter, he might be able to answer some questions.
Good.
Mr. Schlosser, you pointed out, and I don't have the basis of knowing one way or another, but I take you at your word. I think we've had a good relationship, and he's trying to work through these things in a professional manner, understanding that each side has respective rights to be considered, and that the matter proceed in a fair way. And I think that at least we've made that effort on both sides to do that. I wasn't aware of the fact that there was a problem with the minutes and the timely basis. You were able to give us a rather intelligent and good argument here as to why it is the township should consider not approving this rezoning. So I'm not sure that getting these minutes at a late time prevented you from making that argument. Would it make sense to you to have additional time? You're asking for an additional, this to be reconsidered, 2 weeks from now to give you time to review these minutes, or does it matter to you?
We would consider a reconsideration. I believe we don't.
I'm not talking about reconsidering under the act that you talked about.
Right.
I'm talking about these minutes here, because, you know, you're entitled under the law to be afforded that notice, and if it takes moving this to December to correct that, I certainly would make that recommendation to the township board. But it would be just in reference to being able to look at this. You can make, again, whatever arguments you want to make. Does that satisfy or correct the complaint that you have?
Well, the answer is, I don't know what basis the planning commission made this recommendation. There's no articulated, I haven't seen the minutes, and I know they were supposed to be provided within 8 days of its approval, and it wasn't.
All right. So my question is, are you asking that to give you the afforded allotted time that you're entitled to, that we move this to the second, if the board's so inclined, that we move this to the second Tuesday in December, so that you have the ability to look at these minutes and present additional arguments?
I defer that to the board's decision. I don't know if that would still satisfy the requirements under the Open Meetings Act.
All right, well, I mean, I'm giving you.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, to have the benefit of understanding the township's rationale for recommending the rezoning, yeah, it would have been nice to be able to see what the criteria were, what the basis was, which we don't have available.
Anybody else have any questions?
I think in light of the matter that has been raised, if the township board has a different idea, that's fine. I just, we should consider maybe adjourning this until the second Tuesday in December to give the opponents to this action an opportunity to review these. If you'd like to meet with me, I'd be more than happy to do that. There's nothing secret or nefarious about this, at least in terms of where we're at, and I think to at least give him the opportunity to understand where we're at, I'd be willing to do that, but it's certainly your decision.
In relation to that, I mean, I know our meetings are posted online. I know you attended the meeting, so, you know, I'm kind of confused as to how, you know, you were notified or didn't know what was transpired or how the things that were said. There were a lot of people that spoke, and, you know, everybody that spoke publicly was against it. They wanted it rezoned, obviously. They had their own reasons, you know, as they publicly came out against that. But I'm not clear as to where we had an issue with the minutes. I know that the minutes had to be drafted. They had to come back to the planning commission. We approved them at the next meeting of the planning commission, and now they're before us. We're not taking action on the rezoning tonight. We're just approving the planning commission's meeting minutes.
I understand his complaint, though, is under the Open Meetings Act. They're supposed to be out at a certain time. There's exceptions for that. And his complaint is, if I heard it correctly, and I don't know if this is totally accurate, there was some confusion as to this, and they weren't even available this morning. So all I'm saying is if you would like some additional time to look at this, I mean, it doesn't bother me, because it doesn't change anything in terms of what our position is, but maybe he can come up with additional arguments if he'd like. I just given him every opportunity to make his case is what I'm doing. Right?
Just want to make it clear. I just want to make clear.
I'm not suggesting anything was done improperly, but if these kind of things come up once in a while and we have an opportunity to correct it and level the playing field, then I'm always inclined to think about it.
Understood. I get it about the written version. I just meant that, you know, it was posted online. You know, it was an open meeting, and our video was posted online. So everything that was said at that meeting could have been watched and all the way through today.
Yeah. So I know there were technical difficulties with that particular meeting that was posted online. It's actually difficult to hear everything that was said. So.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
So you can take A first, which is the regular board meeting. You can approve A. Item A you can deal with first.
We'll go back to public comments, cares.
I know we're changing the township to a country living at the finest? Are we racing to be the biggest junkyard in Michigan? There seems to be at least 3, maybe 4 LLC junkyards already in the township. And all of them are sporadically spotted in residential areas. I'm not against this business. Just don't put it in the residential area. You advertise country living at its finest. Raising kids, grandkids in a junkyard is not country living at its finest. And it is disguised as a used car sale. I've never seen anybody buy a car without a door, with its front end smashed in, or doesn't run. It's a junkyard. Stop pretending it's a used car sale. The only cars that move are the ones you drive in and drive out of. Nothing in that yard moves unless you have a forklift. No doors, front end smashed in. Nobody buys that. That's a junkyard. I remember when they came and asked for a market, and we got a gas station. Bamboozled once. Don't bamboozle us again. All right.
Mr. Harris?
Marcel Harris speaking on the property. Let me just get it right. It is no longer Sammy's Auto after you guys have made exceptions for Sammy's Auto. So, referring to the property at 25891 Sumpter Road. This property was given exceptions because it was supposed to be Sammy's Auto. They brought in cars as an exception. Sammy has now left this project. These vehicles are still there. So Sammy's bought another property down in Savage. Why haven't those vehicles been moved? It seems like they all weren't Sammy's vehicles. We live next to this. As my mother stated, this property now is Sumpter Properties LLC. The gentleman representing this property is the owner of B&A. Sits next to the gentleman that speaks. B&A, great business, just like Sammy's business. We purchased a vehicle from them. B&A's lot, pictured here, has over 100 dead cars sitting in the grass. This is Sumpter Country Living at its finest. You guys have approved this. This is free information. You can see all the speckles of these cars sitting in the grass dead. This is next to us. Again, this is not what we want. The B&A lot is located next to another business and a home. I don't know if they complained or not. That business is established and it's there. This, on the other hand, has been given exceptions. It is going to be coming to the board next meeting to get approved, and I would ask us not to approve it until these unoperational vehicles are removed, because in that plan it is stated that there will be no unoperational vehicles on site. So why would you approve a plan that they are not even following currently? So it gets very confusing where we've attended these planning meetings, we've listened, we've learned, and it seems like people aren't following the rules. You guys, again, like I said, made an exception for Sammy, brought in cars. All right. Now, again, he left the property. He disowned it, doesn't want anything to do with this. So you made this exception for him. Now he's not there, and now these cars are still there. So again, very confusing why we're making these exceptions and not holding them to the standard. So again, this has been approved, not approved, has been moved on from the Planning Commission onto the board. It sounds like it will be on the next one in the 2nd December meeting. Again, we ask that you turn it down until all of these unoperational vehicles are removed, because in that site plan, it is stated that they will not have unoperational vehicles on property. They currently do. I would not recommend you approving something if they are not currently upholding that. That's it.
Sure. I just want to make sure that the B&A Auto is not in Sumpter. I know you had mentioned that we had approved that. That's actually in Huron Township. It's at the end of Judd, which makes it look like it's in Sumpter, but it is not in Sumpter Township.
Thank you. But the B&A gentleman is the one.
He's the one that's proposing used auto.
So that's the gentleman that is trying to open the business right there on Sumpter that I'm referring to.
Yeah, same order that is looking at putting in used auto, used car sales at the location.
I don't want all of these cars next to my house. All of these cars do not move. We can see there's over 100 cars here. That's not cool. But it's not in our township, so.
Okay, Sammy, now?
Good evening, everybody. We just correct Mrs. Harris and Mr. Harris. Them vehicles all don't belong to me. Mostly it's DNA, and they're gonna be hauled to his yard on Clark and Charter within a certain time before they go in front of the board. This is my point. The second one, I appreciate everybody in this township and the board and the lawyer and everybody. I bought that property on Savage Road from an older gentleman, 80 years old, and he owned it for 40 years. That was my dream. Finally, I got it. But I have a problem. I have drive-through constantly all day long, ruin my asphalt, my parking lot, running my signs, almost run a kid the other day. She called the cop on me because there's a semi-truck has to go through my parking lot. And then the ordinance officer came to me inside the shop and he said, you cannot be open now. You don't have a state license and a business license in this township. You're going to make it the same as you did on Sumpter Road. I said, Pete, no, sir. If you go back to the record, go on your computer, check the state website. I do have a repair facility license. I do have a park license, and I do have a business license from this township, and I have a CFO with full inspection. While somebody next door living upstairs with no CFO and a business in this township without CFO and a business license, they have too much capacity cars running into that parking lot. The township should step in, enforce the law on everybody to have a business license in this township and have a 2-year inspection. This is the law, this is the ordinance, should be implemented on every business in this township, no exception. And then he goes, no, she has a state license. Okay, state license do not qualify you to have the safety standard on the parking lot and how you park vehicle and how many parking you should have. And do not run in the people's parking lot, running their cars, squeezing. Big somebody 50-footer wants to go through my parking lot. She called the cop. How am I going to live next to a place with damaged containers, damaged boats, damaged RVs, towing yard, everything, and she goes, oh, you're going to make it like Detroit, I'm outside. That's not true. I went, I did all my paperwork according to the Sumpter Township Ordinance book. I applied for rezoning, actually special permit. I did go to the Planning Commission, and now I'm in front of the board. They want me to put the vehicle for the customer display when the customer leaves after 5 o'clock in the backyard, and I have to do asphalt in the backyard where there's no traffic and no customer safety for them to go in the back. And everybody have a gravel or milling or crushed concrete or crushed asphalt. Why I gotta do asphalt in the back behind the fence? There is no customer going in the back. This is not acceptable. They should talk back to the planning commission and rewrite this, because if I want to put cars in the back and then display them for a customer, should be yes, should be paid. But if no customer going back, I gotta put it after 5 o'clock after I close. Why I gotta put asphalt? There is no customer, no safety. I'm the one who's bringing them back in the back. And there is a problem between me and my neighbor. I've known the lady for 30 years. She's the best. But when it comes to business, you cannot deal with her. Me and her, we have a line on the fence. She acts like this is the county line. I said, no, man. You have your vape shop sign blocking the view on Savage Road where nobody can see through, because it is in the Wayne County easement. So I would suggest to the board, if it's possible, to implement that law on every business in this township to have a CFO, business license, capacity of the parking lot, how much traffic is going, to see if this is acceptable or not. I would appreciate that. Thank you very much all for listening.
Okay, we're gonna move on now. I have an announcement I want to make before we get into the board meeting, about the Christmas, party for children. As in the years past, the supervisor's office is hosting a children's Christmas party for children who live in Sumpter Township up to the age of 12. This year, the event will take place on Wednesday, December 10th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. The event will take place at the community center. The children must be registered to attend. You can sign up at the supervisor's office. And we'll move on to regular minutes. A, approve regular board meeting minutes of November 12th, 2025.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. B,
Here, I'll make a motion to table the minutes.
support that. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. Moving on. Approved warrants of $351,284.90.
Roll call vote.
Support? Okay, roll call vote. Aye.
Yes.
Fraser?
Yes.
Anderson? Yes. Bowman? Yes. Support?
Yes.
Rush?
Yes.
Honey?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize for interrupting. Mr. Clerk, were you able to get that change from the minutes came up? I forgot.
No, they tabled. Our attorney stands corrected.
Yeah, many times. I was wrong one time when I thought I was wrong, and it wasn't. Here we go. I'm sorry.
So much time for our meeting.
I'm sorry, yeah, this is what I swore I would not do. Go ahead.
Okay. Parks and Rec report. Trustee Liaison Rush.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Not a whole bunch to report other than what you heard the last meeting, the concert, the trunk and treat, all went down great, good attendance. January and February's meeting, well, we got one more here in December too, is going to be all about planning for next year, big time. We'll be getting the clerk's or the treasurer's office to get some of our people. We're hoping to get at least 3 or 4 through the cash handling policy and procedures, so we can start self-financing the events as much as possible. Because last year we weren't able to really do that, and we were kind of pulling some money from the pot, but we had a lot of donations too. But other than that, that's all I've got for Parks and Rec. Back to you, Chair.
You have something to say?
No.
So when you're planning for next year, can not only get with the treasurer's office and the cash handling policy, you also need to contact the clerk's office and let's make sure we block out the dates when you're having these events, so we don't double book the community center or pavilions or whatever they are.
We'll get a schedule. We'll get a schedule together, proposed dates, and that'll be all board approved.
And there's a motion to approve the Parks and Rec report.
All in favor? Aye. Nay? Motion carries. Finance report, J.K.
Evening. As you see on my finance report that's in the packet, we still have not received our royalties check for last month's services. I just checked half hour before this meeting, and we did not receive it as of today. So when we do get that, I'll update that report, and you'll see in January, I guess. There's no second meeting. The next thing is the budget to actual report. That's through October 31st. It's attached to my report, and that was something that was requested by some of the trustees. And so that is something that I will include periodically in my finance report, at least quarterly. The next thing is employee health care. You probably have heard by now that our Blue Care employee health care network employee health care is going up by 15.7% in February. That's pretty significant. And the fact that in our ledger we combine all the employee insurances into one line item right now, that makes it really hard to budget. So what I plan to do next year is to break those insurances out into the different categories that I've listed there in my report, and that way I'll be a little more accurately budget, because you won't see a 15.7% increase in all these other insurances. They're usually significantly lower than that, closer to around 3%. The next thing is fiscal year 26 third quarterly budget amendment. The first read was presented back in October, and I've received some feedback. We have a corrected version that went out to you in the general fund revenue. And in addition, I added a one-page all funds summary report as a request of some of the trustees. So hopefully that gives you a nice snapshot to see all the funds at one time without having to flip back and forth. So consideration for board approval for that budget amendment will be later today in this agenda. As for the fiscal year 27, original budget adoption, the preliminary budgeting is underway. I would just like to ask that the board look at that workshop that you talked about having and maybe try and get that scheduled, just to give me enough time to incorporate all the ideas that come forth out of that workshop and have it ready to go into the board packet for January presentation to the board. One thing that has come up that is not on my report, I would just like to speak about the fact that we only have one board meeting in December means that there won't be a finance report, and technically there would only be one check run, but I've talked to the accounts payable processor, and we both feel that it's necessary to have a second check run in December, so I would like to have that check run on December 23rd before we break for the holidays, and then those warrants would be in January, the first meeting in January's warrant report. And I'll separate those out for you if that would satisfy the board, so that you can see the December warrants versus the January, first meeting in January warrant.
Thank you. Chair, do we need to approve that second check run? Because we're not going to see it until January. Maybe with the approval of her report, that's a go-ahead for her to proceed.
I think that's right.
Okay.
The letter was We have new Ms. Bowman, board members, up to residents. I'll go to water report real quick. We built for cycles 1, 4, 9. We built a total of $368,086.95 fuel money. Money collected in October totaled $252,542.28, which included $7,810 for water tap, $8,400 for capital benefit fees. For the accounts receivable, the September delinquent total was $78,501.56. October's delinquent total was $56,330.79. So October's aged accounts receivable decreased by $22,170.77, which is one of the lowest of the years. Congratulations to everybody for getting there. I'd like to remind all the residents to shut off beginning the 25th of each month for the accounts that have been past due amounts higher than $200. That's a penalty. I'll go over a little bit of what's going on at the DPW real quick, if you don't mind. The DPW, the fairgrounds, restrooms, now the faucets in the parks have been winterized. We're working on mulching the leaves in the park as the weather permits, rain messes us up a little bit. Our employees chipped off brush in the cemetery that Karen and staff were tired of cleaning up. Project's all complete. We replaced the tree damaged metal roofing in the pavilion at Grand Park. That's all complete. Both cement jobs that, we did a little training, both cement jobs, we had one at Township Hall here, we had a handicap ramp here we worked on. Got that completed, and it's all restored. Then we did some work at the firehouse out the sidewalks, down the firehouse, we got that complete. Just gotta get some grass down. The guys did a great job for the first taste of cement. It was a learning experience, it went well. They'll get better with more experience. I'm looking forward to doing more for the community. Our water, we currently are pumping out the hydrants and repairing the ones that are damaged or leaking. We have several hydrants that we got bagged currently. We are working to get them done. We only have 4 employees over there, so we're stretched a little thin. But we are on it. We are aware of the hydrants, and it's definitely we'll get those knocked out. Say next week. We are using our new equipment to repair a couple of hydrants. All right, I already went through that. We also we did a couple of stop boxes. We did Doug got these our new equipment. Yesterday we did a little bit of work, and it actually worked great. It's exciting. Residents seem pretty thankful that we got in there and got it repaired. Our sewers, Willis Road gravity sewer emergency repairs are nearly complete. Ryan from Diversified said his crews are just finishing up with restoring the work areas back to grass, and that should be all buttoned up. LMC was awarded the pump station repair. We're looking forward to working with them to get the project started. We'd say within the next week or so. And that's about it for me. Any questions?
Motion to accept the water and sewer report. Support. All in favor? Aye. Nays? Motion carried.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
Evening, Mr. Supervisor, Board. I will say to you all that my township manager report from last meeting to this meeting didn't change much. Just a couple things were moved off it. But I do have some issues or some items that were mentioned to you that have come up since I wrote this report. Number one is, as you all know, we, thanks to you all approving Revise as our web hoster, that goes slowly behind the scenes. They migrate information over. The website right now looks the same as it has. You can still manipulate it to some degree, but it takes some time. And I just scheduled today training for myself as a content editor, training for Samantha as a content editor, and training for Melissa as a content editor. Those trainings won't occur until January 9th and 16th. But once the first training occurs, you'll see a splashy new website, and we'll be able to start uploading and make things look different. little longer than I like, but that's how it goes. Secondly, a bit of good news. I think this is good news. The building that's a little north of here on Sumpter Road used to be a doctor's office at one time. It's going to be in urgent care. The folks that own that building just submitted for signage, permit for signage. That's really cool. The CW mentioned it to me just yesterday. So I think that's great. We're going to have a viable urgent care business, right in the central business district, which is what it's known. Today, like within an hour ago maybe, some of you also received this notice from the drain special assessment folks, whatever it's called, North Big Branch County, Intercounty, whatever it is. They're going to be starting mowing the drain right-of-ways on December 8th. I think the clerk and the treasurer received that email as well. And finally, I wanted to emphasize what Julie had mentioned earlier. I think it's really important that we schedule a budget workshop. And I think the hour before the meeting in December would be an ideal time for that, since most of you have that day carved out anyway. I hope you would consider that as we move forward here. Maybe even schedule it tonight. It's up to you all. Questions? Thank you.
Motion to approve the township manager's report. Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Anderson, treasurer's report.
So real briefly, it was very important to point out, if you notice that there was a decrease in both the water and in the general fund. The water was due to be a large bond payment that we paid to the bills that were done there, accounts payable, and also in the general fund, there's a lack of tax revenue right now until the winter season comes up, so you'll see all those going there. I'm trying to make it a point too, like you notice over on Michigan class on the right side, we are getting kind of constant interest of about 4.27% in that, but there's got like a lot of shadow accounts, if you would, too, rather than keeping it in where we weren't really making much at all before several years ago. We let us see general fund tax on water fund payroll. Sewer and all that, those are the same things we created name by name in Michigan class where we're receiving better interest. So I'll try to get more detail so that you can see everything will break down in those two as well. And that is the treasurer's report.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report. Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to board response.
Sure, if I may.
Well, it's that time of the year, and I'd like to take this opportunity, I'm sure the board will be in complete agreement on this, to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving, to our residents, employees, fire department, and police department. Back to you, Chair. Thank you, Jim.
Ken, I'm not sure if you mentioned this or not, too, because so we mentioned something we got from the North Branch Big Swan Creek. North Branch Big Swan Creek Intercounty Drain. So one of the things I had down here too is that there's the drain right away is going to be, I think you mentioned, December 8th. Landowners that traverse the intercounty drain have been notified by first-class mail. There's also a contact number out. Okay, so if we could maybe post that on the website too as well. There's also, I just wanted to bring attention to the residents. We got finally, after about maybe 2 months, they sent us this video. I think we posted on our website. We linked to it on Facebook about the construction project. So if anybody wants to log into there, click, and if you got nothing else better to do on Saturday night, watch that video. And just so that everybody's aware of the discussions, residents were there and complaints were raised and all that, so that's posted. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Buck. Okay, we'll move on. A, consider approval of Sumpter Township Board meeting dates in 2026. So support. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Motion carried. B, consider approval of the planning commission meeting dates for 2026. So moved. Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Motion carried. C, consider approval of Sumpter Township fiscal year 2025-2026 second quarter budget amendment. holiday season, with employees using 4 benefit bank days for December 26th through December 29th, December 30th, and January 2nd.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, does this include the DPW? Because I noticed
No.
their signature are not on here.
They're gonna work.
I asked the question, is that it's not at a time to have this holiday, it's just a straight thing.
So why would we close the township offices if we still have the DPW coming in and working? They don't have any support from the township offices for that whole period.
From what I understand, that there's not really a need for support from the township hall offices for them to do, like, this is just normal general stuff, getting caught up on, things that they've been behind on, and it's kind of like there's not support required from.
I get it, but I mean, I look at it, we either open or we're closed. I know that there's carve-outs for like police and, if there's an emergency or things like that. I just, I noticed this is the first time I've been here since 2014 that we didn't have all the signatures on here from DPW and everything else. So to me, this is something new that we're seeing, and that's why I'm asking. It normally includes DPW, they get called in if they're an emergency and things like that. So I just thought we should probably have that conversation so that we all know we're varying from what we normally do. We normally have DPW off. You didn't say that in the write-up. You get confusing saying township hall is closed. The township hall is closed, and it's not really closed. So DPW is open, but somebody cannot access the water department to call for water or
There's always an emergency number.
there is, but the offices are not open for that.
So on that too as well, like in times past, we say we're waiving from what we've done in times past. If we do say, and if they do have a bank time, from my understanding is that if DPW did that, like we've done before, very regularly, commonly, they would get called for snow removal, for an emergency, for a sewer, whatever the case may be, septic pump thing, and that's not working triple pay for that. If they get called in because, well, hey, you guys said I'm on my driveway, I've got this, I've got to go in and move the snow, do this and do that. So I thought it was triple pay for holiday, whatever. That's well, holiday one day.
Yeah, holiday's a holiday. Everybody would be off on the holiday.
Okay, that's just what I was hoping. Let's just say, for sake of argument, double pay. But that's just what I was understanding. I had the same questions, but after, I talked to our payroll, our finance, talked to our DPW, I talked to everybody involved.
The reason it's coming up is we have an asking employee that's going to have to come in on the 30th to do treasurer's office required by statutory. So we have,
and that's just straight thing.
so we have the township hall going to be open on that day, but only one office. It just seems like if we're carving out pieces, we should just say, we would only be closed on the statutory holidays that we recognize and not the other days. It seems like it's half open, half closed one day, and then, treasurer's office open on this day. In the past, we used to have asking employee come in and do payroll. I knew we had that too. We don't have that this year, but we have to have the offices open for payroll to come in and do payroll, I think, during that time. So, we're open and not open at the same time. So I just thought we should probably have that discussion because this is different than what we're doing.
So, we did have a motion. The motion and support to, we don't want to add anything to that? We'll start like, what we have, where the DPW is coming in?
Yes.
I think it should be added to that, so it's clear, because we're saying the township hall is closed. In most cases, we say the township hall is closed, it's the whole township with all offices.
There are some that are new employees that are, they have to meet, that don't have that time available. So they, we're basically saying there's things that they would like to work, there's a lot of things that they could do.
If we have somebody, a new employee in the clerk's office, do they get to have the choice to work because they don't have the time? I'm just saying, we should make a decision whether we're open or closed, is how I look at it. And we shouldn't carve out pieces for, certain departments.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's just not cookie cutter, not all of them are the same. Like our in the clerk's office, treasurer's office, they're not operating the same as DPW, so they're not operating the same as getting called for some criminal investigation or traffic stop, whatever the case is, it's not, it's just apples and tomatoes and like.
Well, we know, police is different, they're under different contract, these are all asking employees.
Yeah.
So that's why we're saying that we should read all the arguments, so we, we're closed, we're closed. I understand the police department's still open.
Yeah, but like, you're not calling something from the treasurer's office about snowplow to the police department, you know.
Well, they're gonna, the holiday, they're gonna have to call them all over.
My opinion on it is that we should stay open. If the employees have time and want to use it, they can put in for their time. And
Stay open.
where we don't close. If they want to take their, exercise their right to take their vacation time, so be it, they take their vacation time.
Don't make it mandatory.
Don't make it mandatory that they have to be off. But we're going to stay open, and if we can run the clerk's office with one head, and they can save their vacation, they want to, maybe there's people that want to save their vacation. Use it this summer, you know. I think that we're imposing on them, no, you're going to do this, when, if we're making this exception for DBW, so if we're letting them stay open, so they can work, because they don't have time, then why won't we do the same thing for the people that already work here, that can save their time for better days, when it's not snowing, they go to the lake in the summer, or, have time to do that. Just by food for thought.
Good point. Okay, so I need some verbiage here. Good point.
Well, you already have a motion.
Yeah, you have a motion for it, all in favor?
No, I gotta read it again. We've been talking about it too long.
Me, from my understanding too as well, is that they, because we've done this every year, most of them have intentionally like saved the big time to take that on the holiday season. Yeah.
No, we also have a lot of new employees. So we don't have the same groups there 20, 30 years or whatever.
Exactly.
So not everybody that's signed here is everybody.
No.
Yeah, so,
Township Hall.
so it's just, I would agree, if you've got people that might not work.
So the motion,
They got their choice, they can either work or use their bank time. Okay.
The motion was to consider approval. Go ahead.
Approval of the closure of Sumpter Township offices during the holiday season with the employees using 4 benefit bank days for December 26th through December 29th, December 30th, and January 2nd.
Here, I
I got a
think,
motion.
Chair, I think, to finish the discussion, we also have to have the supervisor of that department. So now, it's not, Ron Tabor has to work because we're allowing the employees to work. So there's a lot of things that kind of come up that haven't come up in the past, right, that we haven't had discussion on. We also have an issue that we haven't fully vetted, which is our contract employees. Nothing in their contract say that they have to use vacation time during that time. How do we pay the contract employees? So there's a lot of kind of open ends that haven't been addressed, to maybe make this decision yet. That's just my take on it, trying to figure out where we're at and what we're doing.
Mr. Supervisor, if I could just interject real quick. In the union contract, there is a section that addresses PD ordinance, DPW working outside of this time. If you have a copy, I think it's the 3rd page of the sign sheet. I will be honest and say this is the first time that we've had several people express their desire to work. So, yes, and so we, want to accommodate them if they want to work. It's not any additional overtime on the township. It's just they would work those 4 days at regular straight time pay. Yes.
And no other employees in the township are affected by that.
Well, the police department
No.
will still.
Or on this side of the road.
No, and the signatures here, these are all the township hall employees have all expressed their desire to have that time off.
Yeah, I guess where I was at that, Don, is that if they have an issue with a water account or something they have to do it, they don't have the access to the records. The records are over here, in the water, for, you know, what they've been billed, and there's nobody here to give them that information. So they wouldn't be doing certain work because they wouldn't have access to certain records.
Very true.
My argument is on the side of there's been a lot of calls into the clerk's office recently regarding FOIA requests, documents, even when you called me personally asking about a water bill. I mean, it's a lot of activity going on right now.
Okay, so let's decide something.
We have a motion, we have support. So,
All in favor?
no, we want to do
Roll call.
Anybody want to do a roll call?
Aye.
No.
Frazier? No. Patterson?
Yes.
Bowman?
No.
Laporte?
No.
Rush? No. Honey?
No.
There you go.
And somebody else want to make a motion as to what to do?
Well, you just use their bank time.
Then we're closed on the statute of date to be recognized by the township, and if anybody wants any additional time, they would request that we receive it.
And there'll be no problem if we get
No.
Yes.
Okay, we're moving on. E, consider approval of new construction checklist as submitted by Carlisle Workman Associates. Support, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. F, consider approval of affidavit for agricultural building exemption from building permits as submitted by Carlisle Workman Associates.
So moved.
Support?
Chair,
All in
now
favor?
that we have a discussion on that, I wanted to, I was having a discussion, and I wanted to see if, the way the state law reads, it says a building permit is not required.
It's not.
And I wanted to ask our attorney if that means that we cannot require it. So it's not required, but does that mean a community can't put one on there? And the reason I asked it was, if I have an agricultural building, I have a piece of property and I claim it as agricultural only, I can't put my camper in there, I can't do any of that stuff, it's just agricultural activities. If I sell that property, now the next person that gets it, if they put their camper and they're storing their stuff and not doing only agricultural work, now we have a building that they have to come and pay for a building permit. It just seems silly that, they would waive that and there wouldn't be any consideration for how to deal with it in the future. And to me, when it says that a building permit is not required, the state's not requiring it, but it doesn't mean that the local municipality can't require it. We've always required it, that's why this is on here. It seems to me the state would have said a local municipality cannot require a building permit as to, how it reads. That's how we wanted to see our attorney had it.
I hear what you're saying. I think, look, I struggle with these things as I do the Right to Farm Act. Not that I oppose the right to farm in general, but it seems like it's gone way beyond what is the normal course of these things and almost created an absolute right to do all kinds of things which is not really appropriate. I mean, under this scenario, they still have to get inspections for electrical and So, I mean, those kind of matters, I think, are front and center when it comes to inspections for the most part. But to answer your question, it's my opinion that we cannot require that. And I haven't thought through what your other point is well taken, but I think it's one of those contradictions that exist by trying to become contorted like we do so often in government and create these exceptions and these special approvals that create ramifications that you can't control. So what if somebody builds a substandard building, it's sold, and somebody doesn't want to keep their farm equipment in there because they don't have farm equipment and they use it for something else and they have a problem? I mean, I agree. I don't know how we handle that, given that the current law says, in my opinion, does not require, I mean, what that effectively tells me is it's not required.
But it is required, like, if I build one under agricultural and then I sold it 5-6 years later to Mr. Adi, and he wasn't using it for, he would have to get a building permit then, is what the agreement says.
Well, and that's fine, but what do you do? The building's built. I mean, I don't know how we can say that, but I guess if you could make modifications.
Or something, but not a building permit.
Yeah, I mean, it's damage is done, you're gonna tear it down and rebuild it, right? So, I mean, that's what I'm saying, it makes no sense to me. But nevertheless, there are a lot of these that exist. And as I read it, we can't.
Yeah,
But I know it
answer my
says,
question, man, I just wanted to make sure, doesn't give us any wiggle room to, say, we can require even when the state doesn't.
I wish it did, I mean, but just because, look, I don't see what the problem is of making sure that buildings that are erected in the township are erected in a legitimate, safe manner that all builders, all property owners are required to meet. The fact that they store farming equipment in there should not be an exception, in my mind. But that's my feeble mind, and it's different. The law is different to that effect. So I have to honor and respect the law, and that's just where I'm at with it. So I don't think we can.
So, we have a motion and support. We have a motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Want to roll call vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. E, consider approval of new construction checklist submitted by. Already did that. Already did that. Consider approval of affidavit on the. G, approval of purchase of 8 vehicles for $96,120 to be included in 2026 and 27 budget per agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management as approved by the Board of Trustees.
So moved. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried. Any announcements? Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion for
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye.